Absolutely. Let's see. And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And welcome to a new episode of the Hierarchy Betrayal. My co-host Kimberly Maurer, and we have Anna today to speak about her story, which is amazing. We really want to raise awareness about this. So, Kimberly, how are you? I haven't done my exercise yet, so I should this kind of exercise because otherwise I'm not able to speak in English. So let's introduce everything. You start, please, and I will try to get in there. And also, which episode we are? Just introduce the podcast, please, and who you are, and then we go over with that.
Of course. So season 3, what are we? Episode 13, 14. Oh my God, I've lost track.
14, yes.
Yeah, wow. So good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm Kimberly Maurer. I am the founder of Unapologetically You Collective, nurse coaching, mentoring, guidance, therapy in some cases. But I am joined today with Dina Paoloni and Ann Jones, and we are having a conversation today that kind of it's not easy to talk about. I'll just be absolutely honest in that regard. It's not absolutely easy to talk about, but thanks to Ann's bravery and that of so many other people. Good morning, Ann Wax. So many other people that are coming forward and telling their stories because, I'm based in the US. Ann is in Australia. Dina is in the UK. This is something that's happening globally. This betrayal and the backlash from speaking up, because we've been told our whole careers, if you see something, say something, speak up, protect people, protect your patients, protect your colleagues. And we're finding that that's not the case, isn't it? It's no longer the case that it's okay to speak up, that, you really do want to know what's going on. You really do want to hear the truth, because no, they really do not want to hear the truth. And we know in the family business, it's truth, loyalty, and no witness protection. So thank you both for allowing me to be here in this space with you, Dina. Thank you, Ann, for joining us. Dina, would you like to introduce yourself? And then we'll dive into Ann's story. Oh, and we cannot forget the disclaimer. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
please do.
So if you don't mind, let's introduce Ann first. I'll go after, and I will bring the disclaimer just after me. And do you mind to introduce yourself first, please?
Hi, everybody. Dina and Kimberly, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak on this topic of bullying. And as you say, it's not always the easiest topic to discuss, but I've got the absolute horror story of lived experiences of what happened just to me. And since I've actually come out, which was quite some time ago, and I am a whistleblower, and I own that proudly. I think there needs to be a lot more of it. A lot more people have come forth to me, and I am astounded and absolutely gobsmacked at how prevalent. It's like a disease, the bullying and the nepotism and the whole health systems in a mess, So, I'm happy to talk about it. So, do you want to do your disclaimer, Dina?
Yes. So, welcome everyone to the Hierarchy Betrayal, episode 14 and season 3. We are so glad you are here. I'm Dina Paoloni, your co-host. I am an international educated nurse, moved from Italy to UK, and I built my career twice. In Italy and UK, I became a career coach for international educated nurses. And with Kimberly, I host this amazing podcast that see your engagement so much, because in this podcast, we want to talk about all the unsexy thing of nursing and also the bad things of nursing. So every episode is full of amazing conversation because we have amazing guests, but also because we have you, an international audience who are very so active and happy to share opinion, support, and challenging us as well, because we want to be challenged. We have no we don't hold the truths, but we want to share stories so that the truth can come out. So without further ado, we have this routine. We start first with a disclaimer, because again, what we say is not the truth for everyone, but it's the truth of the story that we bring on the table. So let me bring to you the disclaimer.
Disclaimer: the Hierarchy Betrayal podcast. Warning: unfiltered, unscripted, unapologetic. This podcast is brought to you by two nurses who've had enough of the BS. We're talking about the real healthcare system, the one that exploits nurses, commodifies patients, and protects profit over people. What to expect? Zero scripts, just raw, honest conversation. F-bombs, probably more than a few. We're passionate, not polished. Uncomfortable truths. If you're a manager who's complicit in the hierarchy betrayal, this content may cause discomfort, embarrassment, or a sudden urge to defend the indefensible. Not suitable for sensitive managers allergic to accountability, anyone invested in maintaining the status quo, those who prefer their healthcare conversations sanitized and corporate approved. Suitable for nurses tired of being used and abused, healthcare workers ready to call out the mafia, anyone who believes patients deserve better than a system designed for profit. If you're here, you're ready for the truth. Welcome to the Hierarchy Betrayal.
And welcome everybody. Please, we are streaming from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So we want your opinion. We want this conversation be open to everyone. So please, if you feel so, leave a comment, share your thoughts. You can either be public with your comment. You just need to allow the platform you are watching from to give your name and surname. If you want to stay anonymous, we respect your decision. You can still able to leave a comment without being recognized. But please, if you feel that you want to send private message to us after this episode, is fine as well. Don't feel obligated to share your comment only below the live stream. Okay, so thank you for coming. We really want to talk about bullying, and the title of the podcast is Bullying Disguised as a Tough Leadership, and I think we should start from there. And we want to start telling a story. So I think Kimberly is with me. Please, share your story, when this began, what happened, how you actually whistleblowed what's happened, and all the action after. Please let us know, because we want to also understand if it is safe to speak up.
Thank you very much. Okay, so my name's Anne Jones, and obviously you can hear by my accent I was born in the north of England. I came over here at the age of 19 with my family. Within a few years I got married. I was living in Queensland at that stage, and then all of a sudden within a few years I found myself going to Cobar with 2 young children. My youngest daughter Chelsea was born there. I've got 3 children under 4, and then we moved to Broken Hill. This is now in 1990. I was a stay-at-home mum. Loved my children. That's what I'm, all about. I was a pretty selfish person before I had the babies, and then it was all about them. So I've always had that nurturing thing about looking after little people and other people. So the youngest one goes off to school, and then I'm at home twiddling my thumbs, and I thought I'm going to go and get myself a little job somewhere. So I ended up working in a nursing home, and actually started off in a laundry in a nursing home. There were 2 nursing homes. Broken Hill is a small town. I think the population at that stage was maybe 20,000 in 1990, and it's a mining town, but it's an old-fashioned town. And there's a bit of a culture in Broken Hill. If you're born there, you're an A grader. If you marry in, you're a B grader. And then people like me turn up and you don't sort of fit in. You have to, work your way in and make friendships. I'm pretty easygoing, so it's not hard for me to make friendships. So I go to the middle of the outback, and it's different from the north of England, but I like it, and it's a safe space for my family. So I get this little job, and it's working in the laundry, not the nicest of jobs, but the money's good, and it suits me because children are at school, I can be home, so life's going along nicely. I'm doing that job for about maybe 18 months, and we had this lovely woman who was actually my neighbour, and I'm going to name Wendy because she's also my mentor, Wendy Chanouth, and Wendy's also the witness to everything that I went through. And after they got rid of me, then they came for Wendy because she knew everything. So Wendy at that stage was the director of nursing of this St. Anne's nursing home. And we used to talk, but we didn't socialise as neighbours, but we knew each other. Our husbands worked together. And she said to me one day, she rang me up on a Sunday, and I had a 3-week roster. So 1 week I'd have Monday, Tuesday off. The following week would be Thursday, Friday, and the third week would be the weekend, and it'd start again. And I looked at my roster, and I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. And so Sunday evening, I get a phone call from Wendy, and she said, have you checked your roster? And I said, yeah. I said, there's an extra day there. Thanks for that. And she said, oh, you'll thank me after. She said, you're not having days off. She said, tomorrow I would like you to present to St Henry Nursing Home to do an AIN course to be an assistant in nursing. She said, you wasted in the laundry. Oh, okay, yeah, all right, thanks, Wendy. So, of course, then I'm now entering the aged care sector as an assistant in nursing, and I loved it. And I really liked interacting with the people, and I'd had these little people of my own, so it's other people I'm looking after now, and I've always been brought up to respect my elders. So I'm doing this job then for about 18 months, and then the TEN position came up, the trainee enrolled nurse, and Wendy said, go for it. She said, you'll get it. And I thought, all right then, thanks, Wendy. So next thing I find myself having an interview, and I get the position. But that position meant I live in such a remote and rural area at that stage that South Australia is 5.5-hour drive away. So even though we're right in the corner of New South Wales, that's our closest city. Well, now Sydney is 12 hours that way. So I have to go to do block courses at Dubbo, which is sort of 8 hours down the track. I refer to the road as down the track. So I've got to go for 8 weeks and then come home at the hospital. And so this goes on for 12 months, and it goes quickly. And I forged some fantastic friendships in that particular course, and I'm still friendly with a few of those nurses today. And then I'm now an enrolled nurse. I'm now at the hospital, so now I'm getting the hospital experience. I thought, okay, so I'm enjoying that, and you start off on medical ward, and they go take you around everywhere. And then I did that, and then I thought, you know what? I think I want to go on and do my RN straight away. So next thing, I've applied for this scholarship, and there's a $30,000 scholarship from the Royal College of Nursing. And I get that. And I'm the first person ever at that hospital to receive the scholarship. And it was a really big thing. So I have the scholarship, but I'm not going to go to Sydney or Bathurst or, to go to the unis there. It's too far away, and it's only 2-day block. So I decided I want to go to South Australia, do 4-day blocks externally, work from home, and do these 4-day blocks and learn at the hospital and plus the uni. So I had that mixed experience. Instead of just going to uni as an 18-year-old for 3 years, I'm working it, and I'm studying it, and then I'm going to uni. So I'm having all these wonderful experiences. So the 3 years, I've got the family, the 3 years suddenly are over, and now I'm a registered nurse. And then you do your postgrad year. So now I've got to step it up a notch now. Now I'm handling needles and injections and everything that comes with that part of the role. And then I was approached by the end, would I like to work in either the emergency department or would I like to go and work in ICU? And I refused them both because I could see there was a want in mental health, because it was only a 6-bed ward, because it was a 76-bed hospital. Remember, we're out in the middle of nowhere. And was a lot of mental health issues going on. And even when I worked in ED, we'd have clients coming through, and I built a rapport with them. So I went and spoke with the aide on at the time, Helen McKibben, and said, look, I would like to go, can I have a go in mental health? I like it. And she said, okay then. So I was basically, there was a couple of other RNs in there, but I was sort of the one that went in there and started working in there full time. And when I think back, there were days there when I was doing double shifts, 16-hour shifts on my own, but I didn't know any different with 6 mental health clients. So we have a 2-bed HDU, high dependency, and a 4-bed step down. But now, most of the time, we'd have 3 or 4 on the wards waiting to come in. So it was always busy. So I sort of hit the floor running there, and definitely threw me in at the deep end, knowing what I know now. But I managed it. And I was just so happy to have this really good, well-paying job, because in the remote and rural sector, it's a very high wage. And so I've got this good money coming in. I'm getting a little bit of authority in a good sense, where I can make decisions on what's happening. But a few of the nurses didn't want to work in there. And sometimes when we were short-staffed, the nurses had come in and they'd say things like, oh, I'm a bit worried, I said, listen, have you got children? Yes. I said, well, you're going to be fine. Just take my lead. And in the end, I managed to start recruiting a few of the nurses. So now we're getting a good complement of staff working in there. So, yeah, I'm working there. And then I've been in that role, out of my time for about 6-7 months. And we had a client, a male, that came in this particular day, and he was having a major episode, but he said something to me. He said, what would you know about mental health? Like, where's your qualifications? And I said, well, he said, well, what? And I went home and I thought, I think I'm going to go off and do a dip. So next thing I know, I've done the graduate diploma in mental health and psychiatric nursing. And then I came out of that and I thought, oh, stuff it, I'm going to go and do my master's. But I was getting scholarships all the time because I'm good at putting pen to paper and asking for money. And, I always use the remote and rural versus the city, and, we need it and they need it. So I'm getting all this extra money coming in. And people were starting to notice that suddenly I had gone from here. I'm travelling up now pretty fast. And there would be a few little comments along the way. But I thought, you do you, and I'm just going to do me. I'm doing this because I like what I'm doing, and I need to be educated with it. So suddenly I've got my master's, and then I thought, okay, well, I think I'm going to go on and see if I can become a clinical nurse specialist. So I ended up doing that. And I had to go and have a conversation with the director of nursing, and her name was, which is the ex now, her name was Dale Sutton. And so sort of had to negotiate the way around it, but eventually I got the CNS position, had to prove I was worthy with her, and I proved it. Hey, look, I'm invested, I've educated, and here we are. So, so I'm now a clinical nurse specialist. And it was quite hard for us, to maintain regular psychiatrists. So when we had them, I would really make sure that I was catering to them, because we need good psychiatrists, and we've always had really good psychiatrists, but we had lots of locums. So now I'm working with all different personalities, and the nurses, but it's all cohesive and it's running nicely. And then I already have this way about me where I can talk to people, and within the first 5 minutes, I can get a lot of information from them. And so straight away, I can just, I don't know, I'll wear many hats, and I can alleviate my position to theirs, build a good rapport quickly, and help the psychiatrist out with, he's told me this, or he's not going to tell you, but this is where we're at. So, and we're not having major incidents. Like I'm not using the duress to press code blacks. The security are happy with me. And then if I did press a code black, I know I'd need help. And everyone, it was always a good team, a good network that way. So I've been in this role now for quite some time, and everyone's comfortable, and the unit's running okay. I mean, it's mental health. You're going to have the odd thing here and there, but there wasn't any major issues going on, I'm pleased to say, at that stage. And then I did a run of night shifts, and on my second night shift, so in the unit we had a couple of ENs and mainly RNs. They sort of were trying to get 2 RNs at the time to work together, but we didn't have enough registered nurses, so I did a lot of work with the enrolled nurses. And I just finished coming off night shift, and the phone goes, and it was an enrolled nurse. And she's rang up and she's told my colleague, male, look, I'm going to be late. Can you let Annie know I'm going to be late by about 40 minutes? And he told me, and I said, look, that's fine. Clients are asleep, you go. And the supervisor was aware. I said, you know, this particular nurse is going to be late. So I'm waiting, and then I've got a lady in there. She's from a TV relationship, and she's having a mental health episode. That's why she's in. She was sitting in like this little lounge area. The door goes, you need a swipe. And I heard the swipe, and as I looked out, this nurse has walked in. And I remember looking at the nurse, and I think I just went into shock. Her face was all bruised. You could see she clearly tried to put makeup on her face. She was staggering. She was under the influence of alcohol, but she'd been beaten up the night before at the nursing quarters, and the police were actually involved. I found that out a little bit later on, that the police had been called there too. So straight away, I'm getting her into the office. The client is now upset because she's, so that was the start of really what just went berserk after this. So I said to her, I had to ring the supervisor up. She was trying to do handover with and I said, look, I'm sorry, you need to come down here. You need to come down. Now, this is an emergency. Now, I don't normally talk like that. So she knew. So she came down. And I said, look, I'm sorry, but she can't work. I've named her now. I said, this woman can't work. And she just looked and went, oh, my God. I said, I'm going to take her to ED. She's now grabbing someone from medical ward and to just cover. I take this woman down to ED, look at the ED doctor and say, you need to sort her out. And he just went, oh, they're going to need stitches. And I just leave. I'm in shock. So I go back to the unit. And I just think I'm going to have to report this, but I'm not doing it today. I just need to go home. So I go home, and then the next night I go into work, and of course everyone's talking about it because it's a small hospital. Everyone knows everyone. The poor, so people know that this event's happened. So next day, I'm doing night shift, and the day staff came in, and a couple said, look, we're really worried about it. I said, so am I. I said, I'm actually going to speak with the director of nursing on this issue. I said, well, here's the deal. We know she's having a bit of a rough time at the moment because 5 months previous to that, we'd done 5 night shifts together, and Jory actually said to me, look, I've got a favour to ask. When I finish my night shift, I've got to go to court, me and my husband, I need an AVO, will you come and support me? So I did that with her, and I didn't tell a soul. Only her and I knew about it. So didn't say a word. So I write a letter, and I go and I make an appointment to see this Dale Sutton. And I go in, and she meets with me, and she said, well, what's happening? And I said, look, I've got this letter, I've got concerns, and I'm giving them to you in writing because we need to act on it. And she sort of read it, and she said, oh, well, what do you want me to do? And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you're the director of nursing. You need to be absolutely all over the top of this. But she asked my opinion. So I said the same to her. I said, look, Dale, we need to be seen to be supporting this enrolled nurse. And she said, oh, okay then. And she put the letter to one side, and then she looked at me and she said, now, while I've got you here, you're pretty popular. What do you think about the morale at the moment of the hospital? Now, this director of nursing hadn't been long in the role, and she also has 2 sisters working at the hospital. And I was hearing things, I mean, mental health, I was in my own little world, and I'd come out to use the toilet, or I'd come out and have my morning tea or my lunch and just listen to the nurses, and I'd be doing my thing, but you hear things. And the morale was getting quite low because one of her sisters, a woman called Kelly, and I've named you now, was going around to the older nurse unit managers that had been there forever and were holding this place together, saying, I'll be having your position. My sister's the top dog. Now, we're supposed to be professionals. You can't be speaking to each other. You can talk like that if you're ghetto or you're in the schoolyard, but you don't do it in nurse. I didn't think you could do that there because I'm taking my role seriously. So she said about the morale, and I said to her, and in retrospect, this was actually the start of the demise of my life in Broken Hill. I said to her, well, Dale, we're having an open and mature and frank discussion. And she said, yes, we are. I said, with your sister, Kelly, I said, she's not helping. I said, she's going around and she's saying all this stuff and it's upsetting people. And she said, oh, well, what would you do if it was your sister? And I'm finishing night shift and I'm from the north of England, so we were a bit different. And then I went, well, if it was my sister, I'd, pull her head in and tell her to pull her horns in because she's causing a lot of drama. And that's what I said. So I said it. So then I go home and then, life's going on okay. And then about a month later, I was finishing an afternoon shift and the afternoon supervisor came in with a yellow envelope, a big A4 yellow envelope. And she said, Annie, have you got a minute? And I could just tell something was up. And I said, yes, Jan, what's up? And she went, look, I've been told to give you this. It's a complaint and you need to answer it. So I said, okay. And so I've got my bag and I'm walking out the back. And I only lived a 3-minute walk from the hospital. I was a block away. And as I'm walking out the back, I'm opening it up and I'm reading this letter. And I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was a letter from Dale telling me that I had breached Pam's confidentiality. How? How have I breached this woman's confidentiality when she's turned up inebriated and I've got to send her off to ED? And everyone was talking about it. And I've gone in there saying we need to be seen to be supported. And then I thought, this is because I've said something about her sister. That was my first thing. And I still believe that to this day. And I'm open now. No one can do anything to me. I'm just telling everyone the truth. So I go home. I've never had a letter.
Sorry, I'll stop you. Sorry, I apologize. Because before you go ahead with giving more detail, I'm not sure if I understood well, because also, at least for me, the line cracked a little bit. So what I understood is why you made your career up, studying hard and taking all this opportunity, and you're going to work to this hospital. And one night, you basically understood that there was an episode with a nurse who came up to the shift. She was unwell, heated, and having a problem with the husband, if I understood well.
Yes.
And then you reported, you helped this lady, but then there was also a conversation with the sister of the head of nurses, right?
No, the director of nursing asked me about the morale at the hospital because people weren't happy, because the director of nursing had 2 sisters and one of the sisters was going round, unveil threats to senior nurse managers saying, I'll get your job from you. My sister's the top dog. And she was upsetting the flow.
So this was related to the incident with that nurses be eaten, or is...
Yeah, so the fact that I had that discussion with the director of nursing, in my mind, is what started her coming at me. How dare I go in there and speak to her like that about her sister?
Okay.
So
thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I now have this complaint. I've never had a complaint in my life. I'm beside myself. I'm embarrassed. What the heck's going on? So I answered it. And so it was like her throwing out an empty net and expecting me to fill it so then she can get something to pin on me. So I've answered it, and the next thing I get a letter saying that on the balance of probabilities, I'm guilty. guilty of what? So then I thought, okay, this isn't sitting well with me. So, all right, what's she going to do now? So then I've got a few days off. I'm at home, and mid-morning, I get a knock on my door, and I have a huge big Doberman. I'm really I look after myself, and a huge big Doberman at the gate. And there's an Irish nurse who was an agency, and she'd only been there for 3 weeks. And she was knocking at my door frantically. I opened the door and I said, Mary, what is wrong? I thought something had happened overseas in Ireland. That's how upset she was. She said, can I please come in? She said, I'm so sorry to come to your home. Can I please come in? I said, of course, I'll make you a cuppa. What's up? And then she handed me this piece of paper, an A4 piece of paper. And it was from Dale Sutton to all of the staff under me in the unit, an A4 piece of paper with RN and Jones on it 9 times. Have you ever seen RN and Jones be aggressive? Do you know of any times and dates? And I said, what is going on? And this was a huge blowout for me, because Mary looked at me. She got really physically upset and visibly upset. She started crying. She said, this is why I've left Ireland. She said, I don't want any part of this. She said, something like this happened to one of my friends and she suicided. Now, I heard that and I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? So she said, please don't let them know I've given it to you. So I actually said that someone left it in my letterbox. This happened a long time ago. So I said, I swear I will not let the soul know. And I said, who's got this? And she said, everyone has got a copy of this letter in the unit, including a couple of agency nurses, and one of them, you've never even met her. She'd had this letter about me for 4 days, and they were all discussing me in the nursing quarters where they all stay. So I thought, oh no, hang on, this is getting out of hand now. I need to nip this in the bud. How do I do it? Because the Broken Hill mentality is, it's like the army. You've got your soldiers, you've got your sergeants, you've got your warrant officers, you've got your colonels, you've got it's the same. That's how she was running the hospital. So I thought, I've really got to sort this out, because this is, and I could feel, I knew it was all going to end badly, but I didn't realise how long and how prolonged the bullying was going to be once they started. So I thought, all right, what I need to do now is I'll ring the union up. So I rang the union and explained to them what was going on. And then next thing, a couple of days later, it's a Tuesday. It's always Tuesdays with me. I get a phone call at 4 p.m. Tuesday afternoon from the New South Wales, Nurses Union. They're 12 hours away in Sydney. I'll cut back. The director of nursing, before she became the director of nursing, was our head union delegate. So she knows everybody. They all know her. So this lady rang me up. Her name was Donna St. Clair. And I said, good afternoon, Anne Jones speaking. She said, good afternoon, I'm Donna St. Clair here, Nurses Union, wah. She said, now I need to let you know. And I went to speak, and then this woman said to me, Anne, be quiet, I'm speaking. Oh my goodness. Now, what is it me? It's not me. It's this woman. Why is she being so aggressive and so rude? She had her say, and she said, you will keep this strictly confidential. You will not tell a soul, because, your position's at risk. So, of course, I need my position. I've got mouths to feed, and I've got, the mortgage is due and the bills are coming in. And okay, well, all right, so the next morning I get up, and it's another day off. I just go into my study, because I'm looking at these letters thinking, why is all this happening to me? I can't believe I'm involved in something of this magnitude. I thought that was a magnitude until it got bigger than Ben-Hur. So I checked my email, And this is how it started for me when I realised how long tentacles go. I received an email, but it had been sent to me, and it was from this Donna St. Clair, the union representative, and this is how it went. Dear Dale, thank you for your return phone call last evening. Now listen, I've spoken with Anne. We're going to have no problems with her. Nothing will come of it. I've got the email, I've kept everything. And I read that email and I printed it out and I looked at it and I thought, oh, okay. So now I've got a director of nursing and my union representative are in cahoots together. What am I to do? Where do I go now? So I thought, well, I don't trust the unions, especially when I see that sort of thing happening within 24 hours of me talking to this woman. I thought, I know, I'll go and see the local lawyer. So I went down and made an appointment with the lawyer. So embarrassed having to tell him what had happened because, you know, I didn't want him to think I was this witch, this horrible person. And he looked at it and he said, I'll send a cease and desist. He said, and I'm going to put her on notice because you're right, she has breached your confidentiality. So he sends a letter off. I'm going back to work at this stage now. Now I'm walking into the office and no one will look at me. It's like I'm in a room full of strangers. I've worked with these women for years and suddenly I'm being ostracised. And I don't think it was a case of them being nasty with me. They were being fearful for their positions as well. I look back. It was just horrific. So in the end, the union, you know, she's ringing me up again, and I said, I really don't want to talk to you, and I wouldn't tell her why, but I thought I'll let her do what she wants to do, but I'm not going to tell her I've got this email, and I know that she's in cahoots with the Don. So the Don came in, she shouted at me in front of people. That was witnessed by other staff members. This was during the first episode, and I was going home and I wasn't sleeping. I had a headache. I never get headaches. I was feeling physically sick. So I thought, you know what? This is like the army. I can't go. I don't need to go to any nurse. I'm dealing with a director of nursing. I'll go above her. I need to go and talk to the general manager. His name was Nigel Carlton. So I made an appointment to go and see Nigel. I was a wreck by this stage because it was just really taking a toll on me. I went in there and I said, look, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, my name's Anne Jones. I work for you. I said, I've never met you before. I work for you, basically running the mental health inpatient unit. I'm your clinical nurse specialist down there. This is what's happening. There's been a nurse that's coming impaired. I spoke with the Don. I told her this. Then this has come back at me. Then someone left this in my letterbox. She's breached my confidentiality. The unions haven't been too good, and I need some help. Well, he read this letter and he went berserk in the office. He said, my God, she can't write this. She can't write this. He said, my wife's a lawyer. She'd have her out. She said, and I said, well, look, I'm so sorry. I said, I've had to come to you because I can't trust her, and I refuse to deal with her. So now he's got this nurse that's up in the ante. So to my face, he was very pliable. He said, look, he said, leave it with me. I believe the next morning he went down, he met her at the office, he took her in there, and apparently staff could hear him screaming at her. So she's in a little bit of, she's having her own little bit of just desserts now for doing this to me. So all that happened, and then the EAP, I ring them because, you know, yeah, okay. So I ring the EAP, the Employee Assistance Programme, and talking and telling them, like, well, you know, this is what's going on, and blah, 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 blah. And then I go shopping at the local shopping centre to have a member of public who I know come up to me in a supermarket and say, Annie, I've heard there's some dramas at the hospital. Are you okay? This is a small town for you. You don't need stamps living on your letters. So I am appalled now that my story, there's no confidentiality, none whatsoever. So why should I keep it? So I thought, okay, I'll give the EAP. I know, I'll take it out of this health service. I'll ring Dubbo, which is a little town 8 hours away. I'll ring their hospital and ask to speak to their EAP. Thank God I did. I spoke to this wonderful guy called Blue and told him what was been transpiring, and he just said, can you substantiate all of this? And I said, absolutely, I can. So I emailed him everything. And then I thought, I don't want to go to work. I'm going to go see the doctor, my local doctor. So then I have to go in and recount it and relive it and tell him. He was brilliant. He looked at me, and he'd had dealings with the hospital. Remember, I've not been born and bred there, but he knows all the players. He knows everybody. And it was just at the start of when bullying was just being mentioned on the news here, there, but nothing too much going on with it. And then he wrote out a form for me, a medical certificate, and on that form he put patient subjected to unnecessary harassment in the workplace. So he's actually entered the fray now because he knows what's going to happen to me. So I thanked him for that. So then suddenly work cover become involved. So now I'm dealing with them. I'm going to see the doctor, work cover, EAP, and then all of a sudden I get a call from this Blue to say, look, thanks so much for sending that over to us. He said, I've escalated this to the director general, like the all the head honchos. And I said, oh, okay, because this is all new for me too. I've never been involved in anything like this, but it seemed to be just spiraling and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So he said, a Professor Jenny Paoloni, she's looking at it all. He said, she's no nonsense. She said, she will get this sorted out. He said, this is disgusting what's happening with you. I'd also gone to another nurse who was also had stepped up into being our union delegate, and she was born and bred in the town. She came over to my house because I was asking her for advice. And I said, look, just go and sit in my office and read it. She was in for an hour and a half, and she came out and she stood there and she said, I have never in all of my life seen anything this bad, especially coming from a director of nursing. She said, I didn't even know she was capable of doing something like this because we knew each other. So she was disgusted. I'm disgusted. Then I get a phone call from work cover, and the guy's name was Michael Hutchins, like the ex singer. And he said to me another Tuesday afternoon, he said, look, he said, I can't say too much to you, but I just want you to know that my colleagues and I are sitting in our office now, and you have started something. He said, what you've done, he said, but what's happening to you, it's not acceptable. He said, but you have started something. So then next thing I find out that Jenny Paoloni has introduced the Have Your Say survey, where everyone gets a copy of it, and you don't have to sign your name to it, but you can say what you think. So that came out of it. So it got really big. So I ended up, Jenny Paoloni, I only spoke to her a couple of times, but she said she would be ringing me up the following Tuesday with her decision. I am now freaking out all week because, I'm here, I'm the nurse, and I've taken on the director of nursing, and I don't trust the unions, and I'm in this hell of a mess for doing the right thing and for being genuine and wanting to help someone that's struggling. I just couldn't fathom it. So next thing, I get a call from the Jenny Paoloni, and I was in bed. I slept, and my daughter came in. She said, Mum, it's a Professor Jen. Oh, okay. I said, oh, and I was half asleep. I was feeling sick. I wasn't right. And I said, look, have I still got my job? I said, that's all I want to know. Do I have a paid job? And she said, you will have your position. And the way she said it, I thought, someone's going, but it's not going to be me. Well, the general manager lost his position. To this day, I don't know why the director of nursing, they just didn't get rid of her, but the general manager, he went. So she said, I am sending you a letter of apology and I've still got the letter. And it was like, dear Anne, on behalf of the Greater Western Area Health Service, we deeply apologise for what's happened to you. There's been no due process, protocols, wah. And then the work cover ring me up. He said, did you get your letter? I said, yes, I did. He said, you need to take that back to work and frame it and put it on your desk. He said, because what happened here is unheard of. And I just said, well, I'm not going to go back to work. I said, they put me through 5 months of hell. So I took 5 months off. I thought that was only fair, and got myself back together and, sorted myself out. Then I go back to work and I'm straight back into the unit. Well, in retrospect, I shouldn't have taken those 5 months off. I should have just gone back, because by the time I got back, they've now got 2 agency older nurses from New Zealand, registered nurses. I'm a clinical nurse specialist. One of them's now the acting nurse unit manager. The patients are all out. There's no structure. She's taking patients out, even though the psychiatrist has said he's not allowed to go out. And at this stage too, the New South Wales policy for no smoking came into play. So that's now adding to the, when someone's having a full-on mental health crisis, what's the first thing most of them want? A cigarette. Well, we can't give you one. I can give you a patch and a cup of coffee, but so she was allowing it and then not allowing it. So she's sending all these mixed messages out. So I've come in and I'm watching it, and I thought, no, I said, look, you can't. Let's go and have a chat. And I'm de-escalating now. I'm getting back into my rhythm. Then I've got other ENs coming up telling me that they've seen the acting nun, her best friend, falsifying medication charts. What are you talking about? And there'd been a guy that they'd over sedated, he'd fallen out, he had a broken nose, he didn't report it. But all these things that should have been going, it should never have happened in the first instance. So I'm dealing with these 2. I had a colleague called Marissa Zatnich, who was a former friend, and I was mentoring her to go and get her graduate diploma. Well, in those 5 months, the 3 of them had all sort of got this little triangle thing happening, and Marissa's attitude's changing to me a little bit. And I'm also getting other nurses saying, Annie, be careful, because the Don will not forget what you've done. Watch your back. And then we had an incident in there with a female client. Looked after this lady for 7 years without incident. Big smoker, but suddenly she's not allowed to smoke. So now she's changing. She's turning into a bit of a horrific creature. And on a Monday, I was doing an afternoon shift. And on the day shift, the acting nurse unit manager, the registered nurse, had let her basically destroy, I think she cost $2,000 worth of damage to the mental health inpatient unit. So I've come in, I've called a code because she's threatening, she's harming herself. I've had to call a code, and now I've got to seclude her and give her an IM to calm her down. And the same lady had actually turned up at my home, I think just over 12 months beforehand. I wasn't in the phone book. And she just turned up not long, it was Easter, and she had my birthday's in January, but she bought me a silver pen, a little box of chocolates and a bag of oranges, and she's at my gate. And one of my best friends was staying with me. So I went out and this woman was there. This is the same woman now that's going crazy. And she said to me on the Monday, don't forget, Annie, I know where you live. I could come round to your house and burn it down in 5 minutes. And I just thought, oh, she's just acting out because, and I said to her, look, I know that you know that I know that you know where I live because you've been to my home. But I'd already reported it. The minute she left, I'd rang them up at the hospital and I said to her, who told you, how did you find out where I lived? I'm not in the phone book. And she said, another nurse had told her, but she wouldn't tell me who the nurse was. So that was previous. This is the same lady. So she's secluded and the shift goes on and everything's okay. And then the next day, Tuesday, I come in and it's the same scenario again, only this time she got right in my face. I've called the code. Here we go again. I'm loading the needles up and she got right in my face and she said, don't you forget, I do know where you live and I could come round to your house and burn your fucking house down with you and your kids in it. And the minute she said that, the hackles, the hairs on the back of my neck went. I thought, oh my God. And I felt fear. And I've been in situations before, like, you have your first fight as a kid and you get a bit of adrenaline. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. And I knew that she was going shit crazy, basically, and she was capable of doing it. Even though I'd never had an issue with her, this was a whole new side I was seeing to her. And that really did sort of think, and I've had all this other stuff on top of it, so the adrenaline's going now and the cortisol levels are going and the heart's going. And I thought, I've just got to calm the farm. I've got to just calm myself down. So I went home and I thought, no, you know what? She will. She is crazy. I felt it on her. I saw it in her eyes. I knew she was a threat to me then. So I went to work, and now I can't go and talk to the director of nursing about it because I don't like her. She doesn't like me. She's making my life hell, or she had been. And there's no general manager anymore. And at that stage, we were getting a new CEO, Stuart Riley. Now, he'd been there well before my time, and then he'd moved away, and now he was coming back to the role of CEO. So him and this Don, they know each other. So I thought, and he wasn't there, so I thought, I'm going to go and take an AVO out on her, but I'm going to have to tell someone. So I thought, I'm going to go and speak with my clinical director. Beautiful man. So I went and spoke with him and said, look, this is what's happening. And he'd actually said to me, why have you never become the nurse unit manager? And I'd said to him, I've got issues with the director. I said, I'll tell you what. So I showed him everything. He took it home and read it. So he had issues there with me and her. And I said, I can't speak with her. He said, listen, if you don't take an AVO out against her, I will. He said, she's threatened to decapitate my 3-year-old son. Now, he was also, his family were living there. He brought his family and 3 children over. So we had a full-time psychiatrist. Because of this woman's actions towards him and the threat on his youngest son, the psychiatrist's wife said, no, I'm not staying. She grabbed the 3 children and took them back to New Zealand. So now the psychiatrist isn't there full time. He's there for 3 weeks and he's going home for a week. So this woman caused all this angst. And so I went off and I thought, right, I'm going to do the AVO. But he said to me, I want you to apply for the nurse unit manager's position. And that had to be deadlined in at 5 p.m. AOB, close of business on April the 1st. I should have known. So April the 1st was also when I went and got the AVO. And I didn't realise at that time that someone should have been supporting me with that. And the CEO was there at this stage. And yeah, a few of the staff members knew what was going on. So a very good friend, she's passed on now, rest in peace, Sandra Colleen came with me. Sandra was a cleaner, but she was also my friend out of work. And she came with me to support me with the AVO. Of course, I had to go to the police station, tell them what had been happening. Well, they know this woman. And this is where the system fails. This woman, I didn't know how bad her issues were with the police, but it came out later on after the first AVO was granted. I found out when the next 2-year OVA came down by the police that when they went to her premises, it wasn't one police car, it was 2. That's how unstable she was. But no one in the mental health team knew how bad this woman could be. I felt it on her. So I did the right thing. So I get the AVO. And that's going to go for 12 months, happy days. So I've applied for the nurse unit manager's position. Things are calming down. I'm feeling a bit better. They're going to have to sort it out. If she comes in, I'll still be there. I won't deal with it. But we'll work it out. So this is me and the clinical director. So we don't see her for a while. She's obviously served the AVO. And then, what would it have been? Maybe 3 weeks. I'm on a day off. It's a Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock, 3:15. I get a phone call. I answered the phone and it's the PA to the CEO, Annette Vartuli, nice lady. And she said, oh, good afternoon, Anne. I know it's your day off and I'm sorry to bother you. Look, you need to be presenting in the morning 9:30 to see the CEO. He needs to speak with you. I'm in the car thinking, what the hell now? And I know I could just feel something. CEOs don't ring you for a chat. So I thought, okay, don't panic. So I said to Annette, I said, Annette, may I ask, what is this in relation to? And she hesitated and paused. She said, oh, Annie, I'm so sorry, but there's been some complaints. Not one, there's been some complaints. And I just went, okay, no worries. So I get home. Oh, here we go again. So then I ring my colleague Wendy up and said, look, Wendy, something's going down. Will you be my support person? She said, absolutely. She said, look, I'm working in ICU. What time's the appointment? I said, 9:30. She said, I'll be there. So the hospital's here and his building was up the back on a big hill and there's lots of steps. And Wendy's a little bit older than me. I said, Wendy, I'll drive, I'll pick you up. You're not climbing up and we'll go in together. So that was the plan. So I'm supposed to be meeting Wendy at 9:15. I'm sitting in the car and suddenly the phone goes again and it's a number I don't recognise. This is how my introduction to the CEO, Stuart Riley. And good morning, Anne Jones speaking. And he went, Anne Jones, Stuart Riley here, CEO. You were supposed to be here at 9 o'clock 13 minutes ago. Where the bloody hell are you? You can't make this stuff up. So I'm now thinking, oh my God. And I said, excuse me, Mr. Riley, I was told by Annette it was 9:30. She told me 9:30. No, it was 9 o'clock. You're late. Get yourself up here now and present. Like I'm a soldier. So I don't pick Wendy up. I text her and said, hey, Wendy, I was told 9:30. He's playing games and he's told me it's 9 a.m. So I drive up. He was on a second level. I go up these stairs. I'd never been in this building before. It was an old, dilapidated, horrible building. And I go up to this second level. And as I come up the stairs, there's this huge, long corridor. And the little I'm tall and furry. I've got a good size to me. He's a lot smaller. And he was stood there with his arms, just blurring at me in a stance with his legs spread apart. And the body language alone was just speaking volumes to me. And he looked and he went, you in there. So he had an office and there was a little room with like a round table in it. And I thought, do I say I'm sorry I'm late? No, I'm not going to apologise for being late because I was told 9:30. And I said, okay. So I went into this office and I didn't sit. I thought I'll wait to be, seated. I'll use my manners. And then next I could hear keys and then Wendy's on her way and Wendy's coming and she's just looking at me because obviously he's give her a bit of a look because he realises I'm bringing a support person. He's not going to do this to me on my own. I've learnt now to have a support person. And so he comes in because Wendy's there. He calmed it down a little bit, but he was horrible with me. And he said, have a hi Wendy, long time. And they're having a bit of a chat and Wendy's good and she's having a chat trying to calm him down a bit and I'm just watching this interaction thinking I am a stranger here to whatever's going to come now is going to be full on. Then he brought a woman in with him and then he looked at me and then he produced this yellow, it was about this thick. And I remember seeing it and I thought, oh my God, what now? And he just got it and basically threw it down in front of me and said, now listen, he said, there's been a lot of complaints about you and your conduct. I think associated, to be fair. No, I mean over here. I was listening and I was watching it, but I was over here somewhere, and I was in shock. I was fearful. I was trying to rationalise in my head what they were doing. Why were they doing it? I've not done anything wrong. Is this all coming from the EN that was drunk? What the hell's going on? And he said, and it's also come to my attention that you can't maintain a therapeutic alliance with the female client. You've taken an AVO. And I went to speak, but he wouldn't. He was talking over me. I just wanted to say, look, I've spoke with the clinical. Yeah, it's a legit thing.
Sorry, Anne. Sorry, just a second. Just to clarify, because again, we got an international audience. The AVO is in Australia. I just look at
Apprehended violence order. So no one,
okay.
she can't approach me, and I can't approach her. She can't come anywhere near me. But we were going to make an allowance if she had to come into the hospital. Okay.
Okay.
So
thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yes.
Sorry, Dean. I'll slow down a little bit. Sorry. I'll just have a quick drink of water. Sorry, because I can talk. So he said that, and I was like, he's not going to. They want me out, and that broke my heart in that moment, because I thought, this is from the director of nursing, because he wouldn't have done this. This is coming from her part, and the nurses, whoever they are. Well, I found out it was 3 nurses. It was the acting nurse, her friend, the 2 agency nurses, and Marissa had got together and colluded all of this. None of it was true. And as I was leaving, just before I got up to leave, because I've learned now how it works, he said, have you got any questions? And I said, I've got one. May I please have the name of the person or persons levelling these allegations against me? And can I have a copy, please? And he looked at me and he went, no, not at this time. So hang on a second, let's just cut back. I've just had a letter, and a general manager's just lost his position because I haven't been afforded procedural fairness, and now he's not giving it to me. This is the system. The system is flawed, broken, corrupt and outdated, as are the people in it and with powerful positions. And I think most people would agree, if you're in the city, you get it there, but it's different because more eyes are on people. There's more people that can see things going on. When you are in a remote and rural location, they just play their own games. And it wasn't just me they were getting rid of. In all, at the end of it, there was over 50 nurses that had resigned or they pushed out the door. But I was the one that stood up to them and just went, oh, I'm from the north of England. We don't play like this. I've been brought up ex-army. I know how it works. So that part happened. And he said to me also that this is the Friday morning. It's about 10 o'clock by the time I'm leaving. And he said, I'm going to fly into Sydney. I want all of these allegations responded to by Monday morning at 10 p.m. I can't get hold of the unions. By the time I've sent it, who's going to read it? So I then spent that weekend in my study in a hell of a state. Because sort of knowing something was going to happen, if I had to do an IMS, make a report of something that had happened, I would deduct the name out of it, but I'd take the IMS number home. So, if there's been a code, and he said to me, you call a lot of code blacks. No, I don't. I pride myself on being able to de-escalate and being able to talk to people and not get to that stage. If I'm pressing it, I need help. It's beyond me, and you're there to provide that help. So he used the complaints, the AVO, and now I'm calling too many code blacks. And I remember walking out of there, and I remember my friend grabbed my arm, and she said, "Oh my God, he's going for you." And I said, "He is, isn't he?" I said, well, here's the deal, Wendy. I said, if he thinks he's just going to come up against me, and this is a bit crass, but cock his leg over me and have his way, he's got another thing coming. So I know now I'm going to have to fight him. So 9 a.m. Monday morning, I've got the headache. I thought I was going to have a brain aneurysm. I now present to Annette, actually, good morning, and I'm embarrassed because she's his assistant. She reads everything. I said, good morning, Annette. I said, I'm so embarrassed, but listen, here's my response to Mr. Riley. Could you make sure he has it, please, by 10 a.m. because I'm going to lose my job here. Like I said before, I've got mouths to feed and bills to pay. So she said, no worries. And I could see that she was lovely. And she said, everything will work itself out. You know, just go home and try and relax. Okay. But anyway, I went home and I wasn't allowed to go back. He stood me down. I was on pay, but he stood me down from being in the unit. And then 10 a.m. he's got the thing. And then he ran me up that night at 5 p.m. from Sydney. And his tone, he was just horrible man to deal with. And he said, Angela, CEO, look, I've read through everything, and quite frankly, it doesn't par with what I've got, and you're going under a disciplinary. Like, what do you do with that? So now I'm under a disciplinary for doing my job. All right, well, okay. Well, I know I can go and get a lawyer, but they cost a lot of money. But all right, let's just see this to and fro, what's going to go on here. Let's just see what happens. He said, I'll be back and I want you to come back in, say on the Wednesday. I get in on the Wednesday, Wendy's with me again. And he said, look, he said, you're out of the unit for 6 months. So in front of everyone, he's now like a puppet on a string. He's the puppet master. He's taken me out of the unit and he said, you've got a choice. At least he gave me a choice. He said, you can either go and work in surgical ward or you can go and work in administration. And I thought, I am not working in, I refused. I said, I'm not working in the surgical ward, Mr. Riley. I said, the nurse unit manager is best friends with the director of nursing. So I'm not doing it. I said, put me in administration, hoping that I'd be a few doors down from her, just to let her know that I'm not going to make it easy. I got to administration, but I was on Stuart Riley's level. So when you come up the stairs, his nice office is down the bottom. I had the first room. He said, you can work on policies and procedures. You've got 48. I've never done policies and procedures in my life, but I can type. I thought, all right, I'll sort this out. I'll bring people up and I'll work with them. And that's what I ended up doing. But he didn't know I could type. He wanted me to fail. He said, so you've got 6 months to sort policies and procedures out, and then we'll revisit you and we'll go from there. When I went into the office, oh my God, what a jump. It was a very small room. My view was grey Besser blocks. There was mould in the corner, dust all. It'd been used as like a storage room. I had an old desk, a horrible old chair, and a laptop that was so slow it wasn't funny. And he knew. And I just thought, okay, all right, let's go. So in the end, I am typing and then I'm doing the policies and procedures and I'm starting to read them. I'm 9 weeks into this 6 months, and another Tuesday, I get a text message off my daughter. Mum, ABC News now, ABC News. So I go on the ABC News, the headlines for Broken Hill. Woman involved in overnight armed gun siege with police. Guess who the woman was? The stalking patient. So tell me I don't have genuine concerns. And what policy was I doing at that time? AVO policy just happened to be that policy I was working on that day. She's done an overnight armed gun siege with police. I'm being penalised and crucified for trying to do the right thing in a workspace. Okay. And then I saw that the CEO is supposed to organise someone to come with me for these events, or any staff member, regardless of who they are. If you've got issues with, even sometimes nurses will take them out against each other. That's not unheard of. So I'm thinking, well, this is bad. This is good because I can use this against him at a later date. All right, well, let's just see where this is going to end up. So before too long, I've gone through all the policies and procedures. We've got about 2.5 months of me, sitting in this horrible office for 2.5 months on pay? No. And I'm not on proper pay now because I'm not getting any penalty rates. I'm not doing overtime. I'm not doing weekends. I'm just doing 9 to 5 in a horrible office. So that was all right. So he decided then, They were going to send me down to primary health with social workers and a couple of RNs down there and a CNC and all the rest of it. And I know all these people. I've worked with them. I've never had issues with them. But, you know, I think it's going to be okay. And I walk in there and, of course, everyone, oh, Annie's here today. She's in a lot of trouble, you know. There's all this stuff going on with her. That was awful. And so I just kept quiet. I just went in, just sat back and just, you know, whatever they wanted me to do, I was doing it. I was a puppet down there. I did go to speak about 4 she's in, and I had a CNC called Taryn look at me, and in front of everyone, she said, Anne, be quiet. You're on supervision. You don't get to say anything. This is in front of everybody. So this is the sort of stuff, but they're all friends, so they all socialise in and out of work. So they were all in on it. It just got horrific in the end. But I persevered and I kept turning up. Then I have a shift and there's quite a few staff members missing. And I was under the direction of a guy called John Keenan, and he was lovely. And he said to me this day, he said, look, Annie, here's the keys. I want you to go out today and do some depot injections for people with schizophrenia. And can you take the junior nurse with you and just like show her the ropes? No problem. So we're going out, we have a great day together. I'm teaching her and I'm not telling her about what's going on with me. I'm just keeping it professional. Get back to work. And then a few days later, I get a phone call. You need to go and see Dale Sutton. She needs to meet up with you at the back. Oh, here we go. Now it's going to really start. Wendy, yeah, I'll come with you. So Wendy comes up with me. We're in the office and there's this Dale Sutton and Tawana are in there. And then Dale came in and she said, now it's come to my attention that you've overstepped your boundaries. And I said, excuse me, how? She said, well, you know, you're down there now under supervision and you went out and you gave depots and you had to with you. And I said, listen, and now I'm starting not to get cocky, but now I'm starting to just hold my ground. I said, Dale, everyone in this hospital knows that I'm under some form of punishment and I'm still trying to work out in my own head why. I said, but here's the deal. You have put me under the direction of John Keenan. He's a clinical nurse consultant. I was under his direction that day and followed his direction. Who am I listening to? You or him? And so she had nothing. She couldn't keep me then because I pulled her up and I was right. And then I remember walking out of there and I started laughing and she heard me. I didn't mean to laugh, but this is how crazy it was getting. So next thing I know, Stuart Riley then informs me he's put me to, now in Australia, we have nursing governing bodies and the main one for registered nurses and practitioners is AHPRA. You don't want to get involved with AHPRA because it's a bit like the lady last week that I listened to. They get hold of you and you're out of work for 3, 4, 5 years while they mess around with you. So no one ever wants to go to AHPRA. So as soon as he said he was sending me, I'm waiting to hear the word AHPRA because they're here. He said, no, I'm putting you straight to the Healthcare Complaints Commission. Here's AHPRA. Here's the Healthcare Complaints Commission. Oh my word, like, are you serious? So next thing, there's a big investigation. I'm also interviewed by a Walter Zeiler at the very start of it. And I was also interviewed by a Professor Emir Cochrane, who was my university lecturer from Uni SA when I was doing my master's. I'd met her, I'd gone in and read my papers to her, and she gave me a HD for it. So I've met this lady. Now she's coming in. I was feeling embarrassed. I was feeling ashamed. I shouldn't have been, but these are the things that you go through when you start speaking up. The more you speak up, the more they pile on you. So I've done my interview with her. It's gone back to Stuart Riley, and she's actually, Walter and Emir were fine, like fine, but then suddenly he's come back and said, no, I'm putting you to the Healthcare Complaints Commission. So they then send out 2 investigative reporters, you know, I mention costs because they don't come cheap, and this is all taxpayers' money. Think on, it's all taxpayers' funds are all going into this witch hunt against me. Never ever spoke to me personally, but to Wendy, they spoke to the staff members, and so I now have to wait, and I've never been involved in anything like this, so I am waiting for months and months and months, and it was November, and it was getting like towards Christmas time, the staff parties and whatnot. And I had a friend, Sonia Peters, she's a good witness to it all as well. And Sonia was staying with me. And I said to Sonia, Sonia, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. I said, I'm gonna ring up the Health Care Complaints Commission and see what's going on with this report. So remember, he's put me through. He said he's going to do it about 4.5 months previously, and I'm in limbo, and I'm still not back in the unit. Oh, and I can't have that nurse unit position, the manager, because I'm under a disciplinary. So all these little things, just yet. All right, well, I resign that. I'm never going to be working there again. But let's keep this facade going. So I ring this guy up. He was an Irish guy. And I said, good afternoon, my name's Anne Jones, I'm calling from Broken Hill. Oh, hello, Anne, I know who you are. I said, yes, he said, there's a lot of crap going on over your way out in the sticks, isn't there? And I said, well, if that's what you want to call it. I said, look, I'm just wondering, where am I in all this process? I haven't heard a thing. And then he went quiet and he said, excuse me. I said, well, I'm just wondering, when am I going to hear, what's the decision? I know you've had private investigators here. No one's spoken to me. And he said, you haven't heard anything? Are you serious? And I said, well, look, I said, I'm at the end of my tether. And he said, your CEO, Mr. Riley, has had that information for months and months. He knows. He said, you've been cleared. I said, and I didn't know whether to cry, whether to laugh. And I remember looking at Sonia and I said, I'm innocent. And she's like, yay. And he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I'm actually at an early Christmas party. He said, I'm going to leave this party now and I'm going to go back to the office and I'll have all the information to you within an hour. So, okay, so I'm calming myself down, but where do I go? What happens now that I've been cleared? Is he going to let me go back to work? Can I get that nurse unit manager? So there's a little bit of hope coming into the play now, because it's been such a dark time for me. So within an hour, I get a 10-page report and print and temp. Oh, Sonia, you read that. And then did another 10. I went out the back. Sonia's sitting there and she's reading it. She finished first and she put it down and she's looking at me and I'm reading it. On the allegation of Wawa, Anne acted appropriately. She maintained boundaries. She followed procedures on this one. And these were not serious, horrible, vexatious complaints, including a disgusting one of I wouldn't give a female client who was known to the service, and she was known all around Australia. And she would bring little toys in with her, and she'd secrete razor blades or thumbtacks in with the toys, and she'd make out she couldn't speak, and she'd sign, and then she'd get the toy and then she'd start swallowing. And so, then she was trying to sue and very litigious. So I wouldn't allow her to have a toy. And the other thing was this acting nurse unit manager who jumped in on the bandwagon had said that on a particular shift that her and I had worked on, a day shift, I had refused to give this patient menstrual sanitary napkins for her menstrual cycle. And it was like, oh, you are kidding me. But when I looked at the date of that, a big light moment, a bulb went off in my head. My universe, even as dark as it would get, my universe would suddenly open up and all of this good stuff would come through. And the good stuff with that allegation was, on that particular day, I wasn't day shift, I was afternoon shift. And I'd actually gone in early, an hour and a half, not being paid, to let this acting norm that had made this vexatious allegation go, because she was flying back to New Zealand to go and catch up with her family. So they were lying, and so I started catching them all out. So I thought, okay, and of course I let the union know, because now I've got a guy called Ian Bailey, and he said to Stuart Riley, you gave my member 72 hours to respond. And the other union member's been dealing with you for 5 months. He said, you've got me now. I'm giving you 72 hours. And if you don't respond, you're going to arbitration. And so next thing, Stuart Riley's now in arbitration about me with commissioners. And then the healthcare complaints came out, and he knew then I had a copy of it, because I sent it straight to the union. And when I told Ian Bailey that he'd had it for months, he said, no, enough is enough. So next thing I know, what does Stuart Riley do? Because now suddenly he's looking like an idiot, because actually, that one there's told a lie, and that's not true, and she's not done anything wrong. It was unheard of that I got back out of 10 things. They couldn't find a skerrick of anything on me. So he decided then to have another bite of the cherry and appeal it. So then he wrote in again, and I actually got, and I've still got it to this day, a copy of what he put in. And I showed it to Wendy, and he was trying to make out that Wendy and I were being violent towards the clients, and we were in cahoots together, and adding extra things in. And in the end, Commissioner Fenn wrote to Stuart Riley and rang him up and said, leave this woman alone. She has done nothing wrong. But now he's looking like an idiot now. So it just went on and on and on. I am now seeing at the hospital of 6. I'm on work cover again, so they'd send me off now. And I'm using all my holidays up. And then suddenly, just before I went back onto work cover, this is the one thing that I will never, ever forgive any of them for. I have 3 children, a son and 2 daughters, and one of my daughters was quite sick. She was very poorly, and she needed an operation in South Australia. And I had booked in my holidays to take my daughter for this operation. We were going to drive 5.5 hours on the Sunday, and she was having the operation on the Monday, and we were going to come back about Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how she recovered. So that was Sunday, Monday in my mind. On the Thursday before, Stuart Riley sent for me, and he said, this is at 3 o'clock again, because you can never do anything when they're sending for you late in the afternoon. And I can't get hold of Wendy. She's doing her thing. So I'll go in and see him on my own. He said, now, Monday morning, you're going to be in Bloomfield, which is, I'm here. Adelaide's 5.5 hours that way, and Bloomfield's 8-9 hours that way. He said, you are doing a 2-week training course to get you up to speed. And dependent on that, it'll be dependent on whether or not you've got a job. And I said, no, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I have booked a week. I can't go there. My daughter is having an operation. And he looked me square in the eyes, and him and I there, and I hope he hears this, because he'll know. And he said to me, if you don't go and do what I tell you, you'll have no position to come back to. So now I've got to go home and say to my daughter, look, I'm so sorry. And she was upset. I was upset. This is now Friday, then Saturday. I'm packed. I'm out the door on Sunday to drive 8 hours to go to, because I can't drive overnight and rock up there 8 o'clock in the morning. I've got to be there overnight on the Sunday. So Holly's my daughter, her partner, her husband now, he took her to Adelaide for me. And he lost pay because he didn't have holiday, so he's losing money. Just all the little things happen. So when I go into Bloomfield on the Monday morning, who's in the unit that I'm going to be in for 2 weeks? The enrolled nurse at the very start of this story. He transferred her over there, and she's looking at me and she's smirking. So I knew that she knew what was going to be happening before even I knew what was going to be happening. So I've now got to work with her, and I did in a professional capacity. After the first week, the nurse unit manager, Michael, approached me and he said, can you come in my office? And I'm hearing these words, and I'm, oh, what now? And I got in there, and he said, have a seat. And he was lovely. And he said, look, he said, what the hell's going on with you? I said, what do you mean? He said, look, he said, no, we're not allowed to mention your name, like it's all secret squirrel business. What is happening? And I said, I'm just going to tell you. So I started telling him. And he said, look, he said, next week I want you to run some of the shifts. He said, you're more than competent. He said, I've seen how you work. My clients like you. And this was a lot. This was more high secure than what I was used to. But I rose to it and succeeded. At the end of the 2 weeks of me retraining, Michael and his in charge, Robert, came to me and both handed me an envelope. And he said, I said, what's this? And he went, this is for your CEO. These are our recommendations. He said, if it doesn't work out there, come and work for me here. He said, I'd have you on staff tomorrow. He said, absolutely. And Robert agreed. So I drive back, and I just want to see my daughter now. Just before that, on that Monday, the first day of working on that shift, when I got back to these quarters I was in, I rang up my daughter, and she'd had the operation and she was in agony. She said, oh, Mum, I'm in so much pain. And she's a nurse at that stage. She said, but the nurses are having handover and I don't want to bother them. I said, give me, and I put the phone down. I rang around through the nursing station, introduced myself and said, look, I'm so sorry. You've got my daughter. She's in room 2B, whatever. She's in pain and she's too polite. So by the time I'd rang Holly back, she had 3 nurses that had gone in to look after her. I shouldn't have been ringing up 8 hours in New South Wales to get, I should have been there with her, and he denied me that. So I'll never forgive him for that. So I had got all that sorted out, and her husband now and say, look, she's not well. Can you? So it just all of this rubbish. At the end of the 2 weeks, I go back, I front Stuart Riley, and I've got these 2 envelopes, and I've delivered the car and handed the car keys over. I pulled the envelopes out, and he said, what are those? And I said, oh, these are 2, character references, basically. And he snatched them out of my hand, flung them on the desk and said, oh, really? I'll have to have those authenticated, make sure they're authentic. That was the type of personality, total narcissistic lunatics. I was corrupt CEOs, keeping me dangling in the dark, going up against the Healthcare Complaints Commission, not being happy, being told that, hey, this woman's done nothing wrong. It's a circus. And earlier, people in the community approaching me because they've heard things.
I don't know what's happening. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So at the end, I went off on a bit of work again because I can prove everything. And I thought, how am I going to get these people? There must be something I can do. And then I remembered the policies and procedures, the code of conduct. So I wrote to the Ministry for New South Wales Health, and that lady's name was Dr. Mary Foley. So I basically wrote her and posted off registered mail, but I also had to go and see a psychiatrist for the hospital to make sure I was okay. And I wasn't going to do anything. I went and saw the psychiatrist, and in my bag, I had the other load of evidence. So one was going to be posted, and then I presented to the Ministry for New South Wales Health in person. And I said, and the only thing I didn't do was I didn't have my tags on, and it was all security were in there. And I said, look, my name's Anne Jones. I'm actually a nurse. I work in remote and rural in Broken Hill. I've got something here, and I'd like it's for Dr. Mary Foley, the person that's in charge of this ministry. And is there any chance she could speak with me? Well, of course, she wasn't going to come down and talk to me. But by the end of it, I had 4 security guards around me because this woman's turned up, and I've got this big envelope. I said, this is for her. And I started that off, and this was nice and thick too because it had everything in it. And I said, this is what's happened with me. I commend you on writing this, code of conduct. But where I work, there's not many of us that actually adhere to it. you need to be having a good look at what's, this is typical of what they're doing to me. They've done it to many others. And then when I got home, there's another letter waiting for me, and it's a healthcare complaints one, because these are big white ones with the, and and this is now the third health complaints one. Oh, here we go. And I remember opening this up near the letterbox, and as I opened it up, it was a complaint from the stalking patient that I'd actually taken out an AVO against her. And I just started laughing, because I knew then that they were running scared now, because now they are using the mental health to come back at me, and there's nothing she can do. I've been to court, there's a police, there's an overnight armed gun siege, she's made threats to me, she's made threats to my family. During all of this period, I had a few fires round the house, on the pavement and near the garage door. I had gifts left on the step. I had a farewell card. Now and again you can buy those really big cards. It was a farewell card, and it had a big question mark with guess who. So I had all of this other stuff going on, and they were actually enabling the stalking patient to behave in this fashion. So the year after the AVO is completed and we're done, and I'm now back at work, a month later, the same person turned up outside my home, threatening to blow my head off its shoulders. Remember, she's already been caught with a gun in the house. And I had no support whatsoever from Broken Hill Don, the CEO, or the general administration at that time. So I knew I had them when we had our little local newsletter for the hospital. And on the front page, it had Director General Mary Foley to fly out for a chat. I thought, oh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they get together for that chat, because now she knows what they've all been up to. I got correspondence from her office, not even from her, just basically saying, well, we've looked into it and we're going to change a few things. No apologies, no nothing. So I thought, nah, this isn't good enough. I want to let everyone know, well, guess what? Now it's my turn. I've lost my position. I'm never going to work there ever again. Now it's my turn. So then I thought, I'm going to go political now. And at that time, we had Susan Ley, the Minister for Broken Hill, and the New South Wales Health Minister was a woman called Gillian Skinner. So I decided to sort of feel them out. Cricket, so then I went to the opposition. Then suddenly, a local doctor, Dr. Flecknoe Brown, he's now having problems. He's been there longer than me. He's a senior doctor. He runs oncology. He's having issues now because his wife had become the general manager, and I've never met his wife. I've seen her, but I've never heard one bad word about her. She's a lady, and she'd become the general manager, and she was getting issues. And so he wasn't happy. So he blew his whistle and he went to the papers, and I'd gone to the papers, and mine got a bit of traction and his got a lot more traction. And then suddenly a main newspaper, the Sydney Morning Herald, got my phone number, and then they're ringing me up to do an interview, and I'm sending them information off, and they can't believe it. And they say, look, this is big. Like, we're going to run with this story. It'll be in on Monday morning. And I thought, let them have a little taste of it now. Let them have sleepless nights. Let them see how it feels. Because if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. They just tore me apart in front of everybody. It was like having a professional rape of my career. That's how I look at it now. But I can talk about it. I've done speeches on it, and I've broke down in tears. I don't do tears anymore because I'm hardened to it now. It just rolls off the tongue. Now and again, I might get a few mates mixed up. That's about me lot. So the Sydney Morning Herald, a lady called Kate Orbisman, she rings me up on Sunday evening because she's got my number. And she said, hey, Annie, it's Kate from the Sydney Morning Herald. She said, now look, I just need you to know the story's not going to run tomorrow. Oh, Why not? Can I ask? She said, well, your CEO is spending a lot of money. You remember, it's all taxpayers' money. He's spending a lot of money to keep his name suppressed out of the newspaper so we don't mention him. So he never got a mention. So when I eventually ended up signing off from the hospital, I refused to sign the gag order. And I didn't have to go to Sydney because journalists can go in and sit on what's happening. And this story, so they paid 2 barristers to come out, to fly out to Broken Hill for a few days to deal with me and an arbitrator. And at those meetings, my children went and my Wendy. And yeah, we all sat there and listened, and I knew I wasn't going to sign off on everything. And they're putting a big hefty gold pen now. And I said, is this part here, is this like a confidentiality order? Yeah, but you know, if you sign all this, all the money will be in the bank, and be 48 hours, and you know, you can just get on and move on and live your life, live your best life. And I remember picking this pen up, and I got the pen and I just tossed it across the table because I'm over it all by now. And the arbitrator looked and he just said, what? And I just went, no. I said, I refuse to sign your gag order. I said, this is insultive to me, because how I see this now, the amount of money that has been spent against me with investigators, lawyers, you lot. I mean, what do you charge a day? Wouldn't it be thousands upon thousands to deal with me? This is taxpayers' money. This is my money. You are wanting me to accept my money for them to behave in that manner and get away with it. I said, I'm not signing the gag order, but I signed that I wouldn't work there anymore due to ill health. And I said, I don't know how and I don't know when, but one day I'm going to get up and I'm going to speak about you lot. And thank you, this has been my opportunity to do it. It was crazy. So then I was approached by, there's a GP super clinic, and I know the guy that was running it, and he said, hey, Annie, you know, I know stuff's gone on over the way, but do you want to come and work with us? He said, you'd be ideal. You can, yeah, no worries. I go for my interview. Then he has to ring me up and he said, can you come in and see me? And he was so apologetic. He said, I'm so sorry. I have to rescind the offer. He said, because the CEO's got vested interest in here and he knows and he won't ring it. So then I knew I had to leave. So I had to leave my home at 24 years. I had to leave my children. My grandson at that stage was 5.5. My first grandchild, George, 5.5 months old. He's just started high school this year. So that's what it costs you when you speak up. It costs you everything. And the arbitrator said to me at that meeting with these lawyers, he said, I do believe that they've tried to get you to suicide. And as soon as I heard that, I just went like, still, no, they're not getting, no way. I'd never give anyone that ever, because I have my own beliefs around things like that, and they're not doing that to me. So then I had to move. I moved interstate. I moved in with my sister Caroline Kaz for about 6 months. And at this stage, I'd also, when I was off work, become credentialed, and I'd also got myself a certificate for. And while I was at the hospital, I'd also been doing a little bit of TAFE work as well. So I'm good to go now. I'm credentialed. I can teach. I can educate. All right. I'll leave the world, and unfortunately I've got to leave everyone that I love behind, but I can show my family that I can be strong. So I hit the floor running, and before too long I'm now in a private sector. Beautiful, completely different to anything I'd experienced. It was like I was in a dream. I was in this beautiful place, could wear my own clothes, everyone was nice. You still had to do your work and look after everyone, but whole different system. And I loved it. But I'd also applied too with the government sector, Queensland Health. And when they found out I was credentialed, they said, will you come and work with us full time? And I said, well, no, I won't, because I've actually been given an opportunity. It was less money, but it wasn't about the money. I was getting myself back. I'm getting back on track. I'm getting my passion back. I'm starting to enjoy my life. And who is this new woman now after all this ordeal that And then, so I start doing 2 days a week here and there for them. So I'm now getting good money and I'm getting all that experience, forensic experience. And then I hadn't been in the private sector for too long, maybe 16, 17 months. And then I was on this shift, which was by far the most horrific shift I've ever been on in my life. Enough to say that during the shift, we had a knife wielding assailant. There was a major takedown, and this was in 2016. So I'd left just before 2015. So this all happened within a short amount of time. And the incident made the national news, but we shut it all down because my employers knew I was a whistleblower, because I'd actually gone and done a conference not long after in the private sector. After 5 months, when a female nurse colleague, Jo, rang me up at home telling me she was going to kill herself. So it was still going on. And at that time too, soon as I was gone, then it was Wendy's turn. And then they got rid of Wendy. So there was, when I heard Jo, I talked her down from killing herself. And Jo knows, and she'll hear this because we've spoken. She said, tell them. Yeah, I'm telling them, Jo. I then decided that no, I need to step up now and really get on. Really, this is crazy how there's bullying going on. There wasn't much of it in the private, a little bit, but nothing to the extent that the ordeal I had or the others coming after me. So I decided I was going to speak, and then I got approached by, we have a Dr. Charlie Teo, and he's not in Australia anymore. He's a Dr. Whistleblower, and he'd heard a few things. And then next thing, a group called Harper approached me and said, we're doing a conference and we'd love you to come and talk. And I said, you know what? Count me in. So I went to the conference, and that's on YouTube, and Jones in nursing. That's the one where I have a little bit of a teary episode when I'm recounting that I can't be with my daughter because she's having a baby. I'm missing all of this because of these people. And so I spoke, and then I've gone back to work, and of course they know, but they were fine. As long as I do, and the CEO was lovely, as long as she's nice, she's approachable, there's no dramas. It's a whole different mindset. So then I've suddenly got people reaching out to me. I even had a nurse unit manager from a really remote and rural location telling me that she was going to go home and she wanted to get a 303 gun and go and shoot her director of nursing. This is how bad things were for her. So it was like I started this, it was a catalyst. And yeah, it was crazy. It was maddening. It was scary. Every emotion I've been through because of these people. Yeah, but I survived it. So this horrible incident, it got shut down pretty quickly, and that was fine. And then just last year in August, I get approached by Canberra government. Look, we've heard about you. We'd like to offer you a citation and the Medal of Bravery for your actions. You've saved several lives, and you sat in a knife and you disarmed her for 10 minutes. Who are you? And I was like, well, once you accept something like that, it goes public. Just bear with me, guys, because I'm on a low battery. I'm just going to get a charger. I've almost finished.
Okay. I think this story is terrifying just to listening to it. And it's so dense of hatred and harassment. And I'm very sorry.
It just goes to show you, Dina, that, that's why so many people don't speak up, because we see what happened to so-and-so. Did you see what happened to so-and-so? So I think that's why so many times people don't say anything, because they're so afraid of, losing their career, losing their identity, losing their livelihood, first off. But not only that, just what it does to you. I mean, look at how they took her, all over the place, accusations, all of the punishments that she got, all of the different things that she had
Sorry,
faced.
I'm not sure what's going on there, ladies.
That's okay.
Take your time, man. We know you're still with us. Take your time.
Yeah,
we're still reflecting on it anyway.
But look at all the ways that they tried to navigate to make her feel. Putting her in that office and giving her shit work.
Can you hear
to
me?
Punish her. Yeah, we can hear you. To punish her, and it's so sad. She didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it's so blatantly obvious. She was protecting people. She didn't do anything that was wrong. So I feel that, listening to her story, and it's not the first time I've heard it, and watching, I don't know if you've watched the YouTube video or not, but it's very compelling. And I just hope that people won't be hesitant to do the right thing because of fear.
I'm sure if people listen to my story and think, oh my God, why would you?
Yeah. I just hope people are not hesitant to do the right thing. It is scary. Hell yes, it's scary. Anna's a prime example of that. Ishbel from last week, prime example of it. And the system and what continues to happen in these areas, in these systems globally. And how do we change it? How do we... Again, it's like being in the mafia. Who's going to take the fall? Who's the fall guy? Bring out the ledger, show the records.
Yep.
All of. So Anne, it is running on almost 2 hours now, and I love you.
I told you I could speak.
You have shared, and I love that you have shared this with us. I guess, Dina, I'm thinking, Anne. Would you recommend, I know everything that you went through, would you encourage someone if someone asked you to go through with it?
It's funny, I've been asked this question numerous times, would you do it all again? Yes, I would, because in retrospect now, I thank those people for doing that to me, because I have demonstrated that I'm strong. I'm a lot stronger than what they thought I was going to be. And they took me to task, but I've also taken them to task. And, as I said before, when I was told this bravery award, I was a little bit hesitant at first, because then you are public. And I thought, you know what, I'll accept it. And then I was able to do radio interviews. I've sent you one, you've heard it, Kimberly. All the information, the newspapers. So I continue to speak out. I've now been asked to, and today I've actually been nominated for another medal from another nursing colleague who's also endured bullying, Tammy Copley. Thank you very much, Tammy. She's nominated for another medal, so happy days there. But I'm going to write a book about this lot. And I'm going to name them all. And I've told them that because I've got all the evidence. I've got nothing to hide. And I would actually say, if any CEOs or dodgy dons or corrupt CEOs get to listen to this, think twice. Think twice about who you're having a go at. If I was in a position like that, I would have an open door where, if, say, someone made a complaint against you, Dina, or you, Kimberly, I'd invite you in for a chat and just see, sound you out and see what's going on before coming in gun-handed without knowing all the facts. Biggest mistake he made. And just quickly, because I know we have spoke, the plot twist of all of this, CEO left a few years after me. He resigned, are you ready? Because he'd been getting bullied by the doctor's wife, the lady. He got a massive payout and played the system like a fiddle.
Wow. Everything it's so broken. It's so broken. It has to change. It has to change. And yeah. I think it all comes back to money. Money runs everything. And it's not just the healthcare system. Money runs everything.
By the monetary system,
runs everything. And, it's always image. It's always image over impact. It's not about a lot of times doing the right thing. It's how's it going to look? How's this going to look for us? The PR, how's this going to look on paper? How's this going to look in the headlines? And so on and so forth. But Dina, is there anything, honey, that you want to take
Yeah,
away from this?
I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, as you can see on the screen, if you go on YouTube and just type in Anne Jones nurse whistleblowing, you have, okay, you can see we're doing on live now, but you can see her video and you can watch the video. It's bullying in nursing Anne Jones from the Hatpara video. But I will put a link in the comment as well. So if you want to watch that video, you can too. What I wanted to say is, I know it's nearly 2 hours. And I know Anne shared her story, which is long, nearly 2 hours, even longer, to be honest. We really wanted to give this space to Anna because it's so. I'm sorry that you can. I don't know what's happening with the phone, but we can still hear you, even though we cannot see you. But what I want to say is, we really thank you that you spend this time, even it's very late in night. In night, is early in the morning. It's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in Australia. So thank you very
5
much.
to 3.
Yeah, exactly. So we're so grateful because we really wanted to share your story and we'll let you speak all the things that happened to you. So many people involved, so many names. I can even catch up because of the many people. What I understood, actually, what we understood from Ishbel last week as well, is that once you've been reported, regardless if you actually did something wrong or not, but if someone start to report you, it's like they start to hive each other. It's like they start to work together against you. And so after one report follow another and another, isn't it, Kimberly? Ishbel said the same thing last week, and so many people, they actually commented from last week also, send us private message, say the same. When you start, people just keep doing the second and the third, and because they want you down. And the intention seems, it was shocking to me what you say actually. The intention is really to make you suicidal. And this is appalling, especially because these come from people working in the healthcare industry.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm shocked about it. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't know how to express the grief I have in my heart at the moment listening to this story of yours. I'm so sorry for what when you went through, and also the family problems and the loss of this, you know,
12
even
years.
the rest of the normal life. I mean, life is up and downs, right? Everyone has their own problem, but it's like living in a nightmare that never ends. You really lose the taste of a normal life, and I'm so sorry. I don't know how to express my grief for that.
Well, the thing is, I appreciate those sentiments, I really do, and but I'm in a much better space now because I can talk about it, and I've got nothing to fear. I am my own boss now. They have no hold over me whatsoever. They lost any respect that I ever had for directors of nursing and CEOs and the establishment with their behaviour. It's appalling, absolutely appalling. But
And
hey,
and chapeau to you. I mean, it's very courageous what you do. I think it's so important, but not everyone is able to put this courage. So really kudos to you. I appreciate you. And the same reason why we want you on a
thank
channel
you.
to the to speak up in the episode and tell your story. All the name they've done, we don't know them, and again we always put a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode, but this is also to protect the viewers, to protect everyone come here and speak up, because these are real stories that happened, right? No one
This is a true
protect us.
story.
This is a true story, and no one protect us. So it's important that we start to speak up. But we put all of us, we put our courage, because you need courage to speak up. But what we say with Kimberly is the more we speak up, the more we share these stories, the more we create confidence in people to start to speak up as well, to raise their voice. Unfortunately, the situation is very dark. We can say all over the world because, well, I come from Italy, which is a quite corrupted place, and so I used to these stories, but I started to be shocked to hear that this story happened in UK, in USA, in Australia, a country that I thought would be more meritocratic and less engaged in this kind of crime. And I'm so shocked that really it seems that people hive together to create this mental problem to push the victim to suicide. And this is, to me, is very shocked. We have a few comments that unfortunately I couldn't bring up before because you were talking, so I didn't want really to interrupt you. Again, on the screen you can see the YouTube. You can watch the video from on YouTube. Just type research Ann Jones whistleblower and it will pop up soon. I also have these other that I want to share with the Armchair Medical TV. I don't know how much it's popular, but this came. Let me see if can you see it? Yes, you. Yeah, I believe it's the same video, right, hun?
Yes, but this one, go to the Armchair TV, because at the end I call the government out. The other ones, Ann Jones bullying in nursing, they cut that bit out. But this one's got the extended version. So go to the Armchair TV and get yourself comfortable with the cuppa and welcome to my world, part of my nursing experience and journey. But I'm in a much better place now, absolutely. So they've done me a favour in hindsight.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the standard, the original version. Kimberly, it's nearly time to close, unfortunately, but are you happy to read a few comments, please?
Of course.
You're almost done. Okay. Yes, thank you. Yep. So let me stop sharing these. You can, I mean, if you're watching the recording, you can just stop and go and look up. So let me bring up.
Yeah, you can start.
I think we can start with this one.
Yes. Okay. So Naran says bullying, masked under the guise of hierarchy and discipline, constitute a systemic malady that jeopardizes both the psychological well-being of healthcare workers and the integrity of patient safety. It is terrible. Bullying. I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing good that comes out of bullying. I don't care how you describe it, how you say it, who's experienced it. There's nothing that ever comes good out of that, ever. And it has to stop.
And say, I mean, experience both in their story and bring out the truth of the story. I've got, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you again for everybody that has stayed for the duration and has taken the time to listen to Ann's story along with Dina and I as we sat here and speechless, obviously, and listen to it as well. So thank everybody who's watching it now, who's been silently or quietly watching, and who's watching later on, watching the recording. Thank you so much, because this story is something that Dina and I really wanted to bring to light, and that needed to be out there. So Lisa says, hats off to you for being brave enough to take on this situation. Sometimes that's exactly what the institution banks on: intimidation, threatening, and policy muscle. You cannot discount someone willing to stand up to this. No, absolutely not. And I absolutely agree with you, Lisa. Hats off. I mean, we hear stories like this all the time. We hear stories just in our own world of, God, I should have said something. I wish I would have said something, or something doesn't come of it, or something comes of it down the road, and you're like, God, I wish I would have said something. Or like Anne said, you have someone who's going to take their life. God, I wish I would have said something. I wish I would have stood up for her, or I wish I would have stood beside her. It's those events too, and we keep seeing it over and over. Hi, Patricia. God, I love it when Patricia shows up. Thank you, because I know it's late for her too. Respect for staying true to yourself and your values. Not an easy task. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anna, I can't say enough again for you being here today and for sharing your story. And I don't know if you can kind of hear how choked up I am still about what you've been through, because my God, 12 years, and the time that you lost with your family, and and that darkness, that dark place that you found yourself, that you rose above that, and you came out and you showed them fuckers. Look at me now.
Absolutely, I did. I'll just
Look at me now.
When I was 9 years of age, my father said to me, and I mentioned it earlier, he said, "Don't you ever be frightened of anybody or anything unless you said or done something you shouldn't have said or done." So, and I lost my fear when I read that letter from the stalking patient, when I knew they were using her against me. That's how low they were and how desperate they were.
Right.
But I will say, and in this I agree with Patricia. For me, you have so much courage, especially when you, throw away the letter with the check. When you throw away the money, say no. I want to accept your money. I want to stay true to myself. And these are admirable. And thank you very much, because I don't think that many will be able to do this. After going through all this stuff, and bring on the table your courage to be able to stay through for your on yourself, going through this process, then they offer you money to just they told you, just live your best life, just disregard everything. What it happened, it was just fluff, doesn't matter. Now take the money and go live your best
hush
of your
money.
life.
That's hush money. That was hush money. Hush
it.
That was hush money.
Exactly. So we're so proud of you, Anne, and for what you did, what you continue to do, and thank you very much for coming and tell us your story. Kudos to you, and yes.
I'm in a good space, ladies. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And anyone that is listening to this, go and speak with someone. If you feel it, use your intuition, your nurses, when something's not right. Document everything. Have a witness. But most of all, be loyal to yourself. Know that you aren't the one doing something wrong. And you have a mistake. You don't have to be crucified for making a mistake. We're only human.
Yeah, exactly.
Above all else, look after each other, because that's what it's about. And if
So Anne, let me ask you, if this is happening to someone in Australia, is there local, is there some sort of resource for them to reach out anonymously, to get the support?
You can put my email in your link, and if someone wants to reach out, they can email me and I'll get to them.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm sure after seeing this, there's going to be several people probably that are like, in that situation.
There's been many
that is in that situation that will be like, God, where do I start? How do I go about this? So, I appreciate
that me. No, I will help, because I've helped a lot of nurses, and I'm happy to do so, because I wouldn't wish what they did to me on anyone. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you. Right. Yeah.
My pleasure. All right. Good night and God bless.
Oh, honey, thank you so much. Thank you.
Much love.
I don't know, we can't hear you anymore, but we appreciate it so much, and thank you very much. And Flavia also say thank you, ladies, for this episode with a big heart, because this is very a delicate really vulnerable story, and you took it with so much courage. And by sharing your story with courage, you give courage to other people.
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely a true Northerner, Anne. Thanks, Patricia. So, anybody that is not following Anne as of yet, you can find her here on LinkedIn. Again, watch the YouTube video. Dina is going to put that in the comments for everybody. So, we're always looking for these conversations and the next guest for the following week. So, Dina, I'm going to open it up to the audience, and if there's someone who has a story that they want to share, that they feel comfortable with coming on and sharing their truth, our door is open. You can reach out to Dina or I in the DMs. You can send us an email. There's multiple ways to reach out to us, and I just feel that, Dina, this is a safe place for everybody. And our door is always open. We're very transparent here. And again, I just feel that there's so many conversations. There's so many that are going through something that's very similar to what Anne experienced, or, sitting on the fence of, God, do I say something? What do I do? I don't know what to do. How do I go about this? What's my next step forward? So I'm just hoping that this time that you and I get to spend together on Sundays, I love it. Just opens up that door for other people to feel that they do have a voice here, and we are a safe place, and you are surrounded by people who are supportive and who are listening. And again, I think sometimes, like you said, Dina, that courage that you bring forward, you've now passed it on. You've passed that torch, and you've given someone else the courage that they didn't have to speak up about something, or just, I guess, see the options, to see that there are resources, and there are so many people that are here to support you and are here listening. So
absolutely. I will say that we discovered that these happen everywhere internationally. There's no better country, there's no an El Dorado where nurses live their best life, or depending of where you work, the people around you, but this is really global, unfortunately. So don't think you are the only one who's going through dark moments because of someone talk bad about you. You're not alone. There's so many people, they're going through this. And the more we speak up, the more we are able to raise awareness of the problem. Yes. And we may be able to start to do something. I think that start a conversation is a big thing. We're starting just with that. We started with first an interview that I did to you, Kimberly, in my Nurses Move channel. The Hierarchy Betrayal was my interview to you inside of the Nursing Cultural Salon podcast. But because we saw the traction, because we saw how people were engaged, we decided to take a courage and say, okay, let's talk about this program. Let's talk about this situation. And so we may just raise awareness, and for us, these are big things. We may continue with other things, but starting with open conversation in a safe space, I think is a good point of start.
Yeah. I think if we can save one nurse, we've saved millions.
Yes.
Honestly, I think that is definitely what we have done here. Is we've saved millions.
Yes.
So
guys, yeah, go. Oh, I can't hear you anymore. I don't know if it's me. I don't know what is happening. Is it me? I don't know. Seems are still live, but I can't see or hear Kimberly anymore. But we finished our episode now with more than 2 hours. There we go. Yes, I can hear now. just disappear. I didn't know what to do. Okay, we finish or not?
It's funny because you disappeared too. I'm like, oh Lord, LinkedIn shut us off. They're like, okay, you ladies are done.
Stop.
It
It's
was
time.
LinkedIn
We
glitch.
chat so much.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So next Sunday.
So
Done.
what you're about to say? You were say something. No, just next Sunday.
Okay. Oh, then I'm just looking forward to next Sunday, and
Okay,
maybe
yeah.
somebody watching this, will reach out and be like, hey, I would love to be on your guys' show and have the conversation, because again, it's having these tough conversations with one another that is changing things, is going to make the things better. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So guys, we stream from LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you're watching the recording, please, if you find this episode interesting and fair to share, please leave a comment, tell us your thought, and share with the people that you think is gonna benefit the most. Subscribe to the channel if you're watching from YouTube, and I'll see you next Sunday, all of you.
Next Sunday, Mama. Mwah.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
everybody, for coming. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.